Well, good morning, Peter. Peter Malakoff.
Good morning, Edward.
How are you?
Good, good, thank you.
And this is our third meeting together, and I know lots of people have commented to me how much they've appreciated your wealth of information and your history of India, primarily, of course. How much time you've spent there, you've learned quite a bit, but you also have a knack for, if you will, the history and the stories associated with the great tradition of India.
I was born with that. When I was very young and I read Siddhartha, all this stuff came back to me. I mean, I took Sanskrit. I mean, I was a natural at Sanskrit. So it was, there's something there. I studied previously.
Right. I mean, obviously you have some long history, not in this life, and I don't want to get too cosmic about it, but you definitely came in here with some predisposition of an Indian knowledge and language skills.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask you a couple of things, and one particular concept that is so prominent in India and also other traditions, but named differently, and it is uniquely a Sanskrit, but also translated as guru or guru. And I have to say guru because when I was in India and I said the word guru, they did not understand what I was saying when I said guru. They wanted to, at least their ears were attuned to guru, and those two syllables.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I went into the history of that word and I looked into the Advaita Upanishad, there was the reference to that darkness and light. And so I wanted to ask you about what your understanding from the Upanishads, from the Gita, from the literature. What is your understanding of the origin of the word guru, and what is your relationship to various teachers that could be considered a guru to you?
So there's different definitions of the guru as there is of a mother, of a father. You know how they use, my father, he was my spiritual father. He was my Rebbe, my rabbi. So it starts, but in the Indian tradition specifically, in its highest usage of guru, it is the revealer of the ultimate or the absolute or the essential fundamental nature of reality or truth or liberation, salvation, all of which are the same thing ultimately, those terms that I just used. In the Indian tradition, for instance, they have the Guru Puja. If you saw my book, Hanuman Story for Ramdas, on the first page or two, I quote the opening verse in the Guru Gita. It goes, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. It means the Guru is Brahma, the Guru is Vishnu, the Guru is the great Lord Shiva. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma. Guru is the supreme transcendent personified. And Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Therefore, to the Guru, I bow down. The Guru is the source of all grace in that tradition. The Guru is the source of the teaching in that tradition. And the Guru is the one who one gives one's attention to. And inherent in the Indian religious culture is whatever you give your attention to, you become or grow stronger in your life. And so in the Ishta Guru Bhakti tradition of Aridal, that he brought to the fore, he said that, this is essentially the method of the siddhas, is Ishta Guru Bhakti Yoga. Ishta means the chosen deity, the chosen God. Guru is the guru, and the practice is this, or the engagement is this bhakti yoga, this devotion, and to the point of union yoga with the guru. It's not a technique. You see, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi did not allow that around him. I wanted to become a monk when I was with Maharishi, and he said for various reasons I shouldn't do it in this lifetime. He says it's not necessary for you. He says what the purpose of it is already achieved. I did never pursue that question with him. But he said, but Maharishi didn't accept devotees, you see, like that. He just didn't. He was a teacher. He didn't function as Ishta Guru Bhakti Yoga. He didn't function as that. His teacher, Ramananda Saraswati, the Shankaracharya of Jyotirmath, Maharishi's practice with him was not transcendental meditation. Maharishi's practice with him was complete guru devotion. From the first moment he saw his face in Benares when it was at night, and he was visiting a house, his guru was visiting a house there. The car came around the corner, illuminated. He was looking in the window to see where he was, and he saw his face. That was it. He devoted his whole life, changed in a moment, and he devoted his life to his teacher. Because Maharishi, this is now my speculation, what I'm saying now. I believe because Maharishi realized there's not a Ishta Guru Bhakti Yoga that I can bring to the world. And therefore he taught the technique of transcendental meditation.
So can I ask you, would you ever refer to Maharishi as your guru?
Easily, but not, not as an Ishta Guru Bhakti. Not in that he didn't encourage devotion.
So would you say Ramana Maharshi was a guru in that definition?
For Ramana Maharshi, the guru was Arunachala. See, I mean, I don't understand that. I got it, I understand it intellectually, but that's it. But that was his guru, right. Arunachala.
Right, he said the force of what attracted him to Tiruvannamalai was the mountain itself. He
had heard one of his uncles mention it. And it was just like, it was an immediate, just like Maharishi with Ramananda Saraswati, immediately, I have to go there. Right. And that's what eventually happened.
And I'm reminded of when I was in India and I went to Arunachala and I saw you and met you and spent some time with you. I also got into the library and I started to look, and even he said there was another pole to Arunachala that was down there through the earth. So there's a whole energy equation that he referred to in the mountain itself. So I wanted to ask you, since the guru seems to imply, although teacher, but a guru in the sense that we understand a guru where somebody brings him herself to the feet of the guru. There's the disciple and the guru. So there seems some teachers don't, like Maharishi didn't want or didn't need or didn't expect to have a devotional response from devotees or students, but there are teachers who require that devotion to their person.
That is, as Adida says, that is the ancient tradition. Right. Adida took my feet out from under me from the first book. That there was, there was the seeking was over.
Right.
But then what I did was go out and adventure, in the realm of sexuality, in the realm of food, in the realm of adventure, and, all the things that Adida did in his early life. He was not a saint, pure, he was a wild person. And for me, I tested and adventured in all these areas. to see if that was true for myself.
You're not alone. There's a lot of
No,
other people.
well, there's a lot of people out there doing things, but not all of them were adventuring.
Because I was with a Tantra teacher. His name was Choyang Trungpa Rinpoche. And a lot of these people took on lots of the energy that the yidams and the various deities they were associated with took on as their meditation, and they were burnt. They were burnt because they couldn't conduct it. They couldn't channel that energy. And basically, you know, I mean, I know firsthand stories of people who were casualties of their assumption that they could work with these forces that they were now connected to due to their relationship with Choyang Trungpa Rinpoche. And they literally ran into a brick wall, basically. I mean, in many ways, that's a polite way of saying it. So you have and then you've been in India for so long, and I've been so steeped in the North American culture. Do you see, and you probably are connected to people in America, and this may apply to Europeans also, do you see any use for the guru, the term, and also the person who represents that function? Do you see that any way integrating truly into the Western model?
Sure. I just think, I mean, where it arises truly is independent of culture.
Independent.
Independent. It's existed throughout history.
So it's always on in the forest, so to speak?
Well, it's never been that widely, employed. When you look at Jesus, you don't hear a lot about satsang with Jesus. You look at him like, well, he was born, he's going to take care of it for me, and he's going to save me through grace because I believe in him. You're saved through faith. But Jesus had satsang. He had Ishta Bhakti Yoga with his devotees.
So we just got a language problem.
Well, no, it's a concept. If there's not a need in the yoga tradition, they say, the water, the self is like a lake. It neither flows nor resists flowing. But if a person runs up a channel to that lake, the water will flow. People don't run up the channel to the lake of Guru's grace. There's not a need for it. And therefore, it becomes as if nothing. But yet, it's the most essential thing in the world. And so we live in a culture in which what is the highest offering of a guru is very rarely, who cares? It doesn't.
I guess for me, the Western model has one guru and the Eastern model has many gurus.
Well, you mean like Jesus and
Well, yeah. I mean, if you start to talk to a priest or a rabbi or a pastor or somebody, there is one Yahweh or Jesus or whatever your faith is. There's one God. There's one prophet. There's one doorway to their heaven, if you will.
Yeah, but Jesus is not so much a guru. Jesus is a savior.
No, he's not a guru. I mean, you're using an Eastern term for a Western face. You can't apply.
Not just the Western face, but the whole orientation. In other words, that
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You have to accept that you've sinned and that Jesus is going to save you. And the method of salvation is belief. Faith. That's not what Da emphasized. It is what different teachers, some of whom I highly respect, did emphasize, which was belief. So Shirdi Sai Baba, said, just he called it Nishta and Saburi. He says these are the two essential qualities. Old woman came to him and said, Guruji, Babaji, please give me some upaya, some practice. And days went on, and the woman decided to fast herself to death. And so Shirdi Sai Baba was told of this, and he said, "You bring the woman to me." And she was brought before him, and she says, "Baba, give me some upaya, some meditation." And he said, "Ma, what can I do? I was not given any meditation by my teacher. And I was asked, was 2 paisa, two coins, little like pennies. One was have faith, and the other was have patience, and just live with me, be with me. There's no technique, there's no method." It was called Nishta and Saburi. This was the essential teaching, so to speak, of Shirdi Sai Baba. And I don't know that that exists in the Western tradition. That transmission of cities, that transmission of whatever the heck it's supposed to be, whatever we're going to call it, that exists in.
I find that this Eastern model that we have grown up with and have adapted to, and adopted in many ways, is so foreign to the mindset of the Western tradition that still is very, very strong. And even in California, where we spent many, many decades living there, they have taken this model of the guru and incorporated into themselves, meaning that you are your own guru.
Yeah, I wish.
Well, there are lots of people.
I don't really wish it. I'm saying that apophatically. You wish it could be your own. It was only so simple.
Well, so, I think that everything in the United States is conformed to the person or the self or the individual, because bowing down to another human being is such a anathema, you would never submit yourself to another human being, where in the East, it is all about that reverence or that respect or that acceptance that there is some transmission. I just see the Western model as kind of corrupting so much of these Eastern methods or techniques that, even the gurus were that came over here with Muktananda and all the others really got, I don't know, they did, they may have gone back home, and Rajneesh had to do it in Oregon, but gurus coming to America is a hellish place to be.
Another teacher that really affected me very, very strongly was Sri Ramakrishna. Not so much Vivekananda, but Sri Ramakrishna. Although I admire Vivekananda, but Ramakrishna he was crazy as a loon and just wonderful. It's the best introduction to the Indian tradition in one book, a small book. Mahabharata will do it, like if you want to read an encyclopedia. But it's just incredible. And most of Ramakrishna's teachings are very easy to understand, parable-like, simple, even when he was dealing with great scholars who would come to him to interpret this or that verse.
One of the things, there's a lady who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert, and she has a.
I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
Yeah, well, it's a very interesting and it's a popular book. She had a TED Talk called, I don't know the title of it, but it's about genius, and it's about her story after she wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love, and it got all this accolades and all the acceptance and got the movie made, and everybody was asking her, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? And she was saying, like, I mean, come on, I just finished this and you're asking me now to create another great novel or whatever. But she got into this whole thing personally about where did this story, Eat, Pray, Love, where does she get this? Where does it come from? The creative mind or the creative ability to write a novel or write a song or tell a story, or, and she went into the history of genius, because people were calling her a genius. And then she realized that genius comes from the word genie, and it comes from the deeper mystical parts of the Western tradition and also the East, is that there's a kind of muse, there's a certain out of the body, so to speak, spirit that comes through you as a creative force, and even as a non-creative force. Everything people do, from her point of view, is through a muse or a spirit. I thought maybe you could talk a little about muse, about where this comes from. Where do you said you read Siddhartha and you knew all about the Indian tradition, not knowing it in the cognitive sense, but it spoke to you, which implies that there's a deeper part of you, or a deeper part of everybody, that a muse. What is a muse?
Well, instead of living in, I'm going to answer the question, but instead of living in Ahahik, we were originally going to live in a town called Guanajuato.
So back up from the mic.
So we were going to originally live in a town called Guanajuato, which used to be the richest city in the Americas, and if not the world. I mean, it was of gold mining, silver mining, you know, all this. Roads were underground. Downtown, you don't drive through. The roads go underneath in through these caves, sort of, and then you come up here and there, and you can park. So anyway, we were going to live there, and they had a museum. These people were fabulously wealthy, who were the rulers, or the main dudes of the city and dudettes. And they built a hall there, a theater. And on top of the portico of this, you know, sort of Greek-like theater in downtown, the center of the city, were the 9 muses, which, you know, when they talk about a museum, it's like they were using that term to represent all the muses. And the different muses, you know, music, all of these muses were there, and, you know, they're all women and feminine figures. And the closest thing that approached a consideration of it that I can relate to in the West was Carl Jung and his talk of the archetypes. And, you know, you see it, you know, for instance, the puer aeternus, the eternal youth archetype, or the crone, the old woman archetype, or the warrior. You know, all these. This is like James Hillman, Carl Jung, the beginner of this. But so when they're talking about that, they're talking about different life energies that inform, that are a deeper current in everyone's life. Most of it, the archetypal realm, is unconscious to people. And anybody who gets involved in creative work deeply, not just going to work and doing a job, but if you have to create out of nothing, is well aware that they are not the source of that creation. I mean, you become quickly aware of that. I hope, you know, I hope this is not, I want it to be full of stories. Let me just end with this. It's very short. Then a guru was talking to his disciples. And one of the disciples said, Guru, why do you always tell stories? Why don't you just give the teaching straight out? And the Guru said, bring me a glass of water. The Guru never drank water at that time of the day. He was a very disciplined guy. And anyway, so the disciple got a bronze cup, went to the well, got water, brought it back, gave it to the Guru. And the Guru said, why did you give me a cup with water? I only asked for water. That's why we tell stories. I mean, not that I'm a guru. I'm not saying, I mean, that's why stories.
You don't need to qualify. Don't ruin the story. I like that.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Well, no, this is how people understand. I mean, some people can read a, you know, a text, and some people can watch a movie, and some people can hear a story. So storytelling, which is an ancient way of transmitting the wisdom, is just the what has been in existence since people were um, wandering this. I mean, that's what music is about. So much of music is in the poetry and the stories and the, you know, my girlfriend left and I gotta get a party. You know, it's all bubblegum, but you know, there's a story behind it.
But see, there's different levels of story. In the ancient Greek world, they had these 4 levels. Did I talk about this? Rima, epos, mythos, and logos.
You got to hold that. You got to hold that. Write that down on a piece of paper, because
it's written down. So
we gotta pick this up. I do have to go.
4 different levels of literature, of poetry, of teaching. The 4 different levels, anciently classified. Okay, Eduardo, thank you.
My pleasure. I always enjoy talking with you.
Okay, great.